Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, also known as tubalcain, your YouTube shop teacher. And in this video I'm getting a little bit off of the machine shop topic and talking woodwork, and some of you are interested in that, but you might have recalled that a few weeks ago I bought this box of antique Stanley planes. There's two number 45s and there's a number 113 in here. Now they're all in pieces. So let me lay these out on the table, and I need to sort through them and try to determine what parts go with what. And I'll go ahead and assemble them and show you what we got here. And I really like these old planes, and these are from, oh, these are at least 70 or 80 years old, maybe even older, I'm not sure, because they made this model for many years. So let's get started here. Okay, all the parts are laid out on the table here, if I can figure out how they go together. But the first thing I'm going to do here is that, number one, it's kind of unusual to find complete sets of blades for these, but there are two complete sets, I believe, and I'm going to get them all sorted according to what we see right here. That'll take a while, so I will not show that, but it's very neat that we have the original boxes, but of course there were lids as well, and they are missing, and that's probably very typical. And I think that one of these planes is probably a lot older than the other, and they made these probably for, you know, a 75 or more year period, and these were very popular planes among cabinet makers and woodworkers. But in the 50s, when they came out with affordable electric routers like Stanley and others made, these quickly fell into disfavor and just became, either were thrown away or remained unused for years. So I'll sort these blades out, these cutters out right now, and then get back to you. That'll take a few minutes. Well, that took a little while to sort those out, but there are a total of 8 cutters right there in each set, 8 and 8, and then down here 10 and 10. So I'm not sure exactly how many belong in here, but there are 18 cutters for each plane, no duplicates there other than what you see here. I do not know if any are missing, but I think it's pretty much a miracle that many have survived after this many years. Let me go ahead and get them in the boxes and see what they look like. That took me about 15 minutes to sort those, and there are 17 in each case, each box, and there's 2 left over, and they will not fit in there. There just is not room. So what I am deducing here is that when these were bought new, probably this one or similar smaller one was installed in the plane, maybe even to help hold parts together. So after I get them assembled, these final 2, which I believe are 1/4 inch, will be installed in the planes. But this is pretty nice. I believe this is constitutes complete sets, although I'd have to do some research, which I do not intend to do. Now that I have these sorted, and let me draw your attention to the fact that the company at that time was called Stanley Rule and Level, and I do not know when they changed the name to Stanley Tools or whatever it is now, but I think these are probably from the 40s or 30s. So let me set those aside and turn my attention to sorting out this mess. First of all, let me lay this aside. This is a Craftsman, I think equivalent to a number 3 corrugated, has a broken knob and the typical broken tote, probably made by Sargent. I don't think it was Stanley because they didn't use this kind of cheap stamped lateral lever. This is worth almost nothing, so I'm going to lay that aside. Okay, there's actually 3 planes here, so I'll turn my attention toward the one in the front here. I'll talk about the 45s here in a little while. By the way, there was a Stanley 55 too, which I had double the number of cutters, but this isn't really a lesson in planes. Well, I guess it is actually. Well, this is a Stanley number 113 compass plane that could be used for both convex and concave cutting, carriage maker, boat making, whatever. And they made these for many years, so I'm not sure of the exact date on this, nor, I guess, do we care. But why these are all taken apart like this, I have no idea. But I hope all the parts are here for this one. And it looks like maybe they are, and there's some parts here in a baggie, and I believe they go with this rather than the 45s. I'll dump those out. There they are. And I will attempt to put this together while you're not looking. It's about a half hour later, and that wasn't particularly easy, and I tell you, this screw down here, I always wondered what they made these screwdrivers for, these offset screwdrivers, but there was no tightening that. And the unusual thing here is that all of the parts are here. I did oil everything, but including this little screw here. So whoever took this apart was rather meticulous. So that's a good restorable plane. Probably not usable right now, I don't really know. But it's interesting, you probably knew this already, but Stanley used all of its own threads. So this thread right here that I'm touching is like a 9/32 diameter and left-handed, no less. So all of their screws were special threads by Stanley. I don't know if they were doing it to be ornery or if we had not yet standardized the threads. Very unusual thread up here, and I forgot what we call that when we have 2 threads on one rod to speed things up. You see these sometimes in tap wrenches as well. Put it in the comments if you know anything about that thread or anything about these planes, and you probably know more than me if you're watching this. And this is how you adjust it from convex to concave. Now there's a lot of patents on these, usually more than one as they make improvements over time. So let me show you the patent for this, which I have looked up and researched in the last few minutes. And you can see it says Stanley right there, and that has a date on it, but that might refer to the patent on the blade rather than some of the other parts. So you know how patents are, they're very specific. Let me show you that patent, and I'll put stills of it at the end of the video. And there is the patent. You can look it up on Google Patents should you have a notion, and that was patented in 1903 by A.W. Stanley and a partner. And now I turn my attention to the Stanley 45, and I think sometimes they call it a combination plane, and there's a lot of parts for these, including rods that make it different width. So this is the fence, the main body as far as I know, and I believe that was called the skate. Now I would like to match these up. I don't really want to mix or match. I'm not sure I am able to do that, but you can see we got pretty much different colors on the handles. This one is rosewood. I'm not sure if that's rose. It sure is black, whatever it is. Maybe somebody's painted it. And these are nickel plated. If they were much older, they probably would be japanned. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. There are a bunch of these rods here, but I believe that there's a couple here that are homemade, maybe made out of drill rod, because I can see saw and file marks on that. So I'm more interested in the authentic These also look to be homemade. I'm going to lay them off to the side, but we got 2 long ones and 4 short ones for whatever that's worth. Alright, let me see if I can match these up. But you know what, before I match them up, I think it's easier for me to talk just a little bit about this before it is assembled. And you can see these are about the same. And most of the extra parts, if not all, are here because there's a splitter or whatever it's called, or maybe a depth stop, or this is the depth stop. I'm not even sure. All the threads work pretty nice. And there's only one of these. I think that this was an option. There were some parts maybe that were sold separate, and you can see that this one was patented separately. And the same may be true of this, although I am not sure. It seems to me there were even more parts than this, but I might be thinking of Stanley 55s instead of 45s. And if you look here, we've got, boy, is that a patent number? Because I sure spent a lot of time trying to find the patent, and don't tell me it was right here all the time. Look at that. I spent over a half hour doing a Google search, and that probably would have helped me. Pretty good condition, aren't they? And just so elegant, and all of the little details. Was this made in China? Methinks not. And this is how the cutters go in there. Notice that there's a little notch right there, and it is caught by that pin so that you can control the depth like that. And then flipping it over here, we tighten that wing nut, which is quite a bit more elegant than one that you might find at a box store, don't you agree? So I'll go ahead and install that 1/4 inch cutter in both planes. Okay, here's how I'm going to go ahead and try to match the parts. See if this makes sense to you. On this one you can see some corrosion, some spots of rust. Not terribly bad, but nevertheless not perfect, and that pretty much matches this piece, as does the corrosion on this piece. As opposed to the much better nickel finish on this and the skate and the fence. So I believe that these belong together and these belong together. Agreed? Anybody watching at all? Is everybody happy? You know what? Both of these went together rather nicely, and everything moves freely and smoothly. This one I put together with the long rods. You know, you'd think there'd be some binding, you know, because they did this by, well, we don't know how they did it, but they sure didn't have CNC machines. And now I have realized that on this one, there is this depth stop or whatever you call it here. So this is not an extra piece. It in fact belongs on this one, which I put together with shorter rods. And then I still have, you know, the homemade ones and another set of factory short ones for what they're worth. This one also slides and moves pretty freely, and they can be tightened, and I'm not sure I got this together totally correct, but it's good enough for display purposes. I'll go ahead and put this on this one, and then I forgot what you call this, but I will put it over here on this one, at least now for storage. Maybe I'll move it in here someplace and be right back with you. Okay, for now I just stuck that piece on this rod. Now this was patented by Justice Trout, and I'm going to show you those patent drawings in a minute. but there were probably many patents on this over the years. And I didn't find all those, nor do I intend to. But did you know that at the Stanley factory, and probably many others during that time period, that these products were made by contractors that worked within the company and had a contract, hired their own workers, maybe had separate rooms or workstations or whatever. So I think Trout himself was also a contractor for some of these planes. He invented an awful lot of the Stanley items. Many. I'll show you a picture of his grave too. Pretty fancy grave out in Connecticut, I think. But let me show you the patents right now, and again there'll be more drawings and pictures at the end of the videos. You know what a guy told me recently? He says, I like your videos, but I don't like the blankety blank pictures at the end. So I don't know, I'm probably wasting my time doing that. So here's one of the original patents from, what is it, 1884. Look at the real low patent number there, isn't that something? And I'm just showing you a portion of that because it doesn't all fit on the frame, but there are other pictures here as well. Beautifully done. No Confusion 360 back then. Now here's a slightly newer one, also by Justice Trout, 1886. You know, they were constantly making improvements. Also within all companies, many times there are patents on certain items or certain planes, whatever it is they're making, that never do go into production. They're just patenting it to protect themselves. And, you know, Winchester did a lot of that. They bought all of John Browning's ideas and patents just to keep them from the competition. Not all of them were ever put into production. Okay, you'll have to admit, even if you're not a woodworker, that this is actually a piece of art, industrial art. It is tremendously appealing to the eye for those that have appreciative eyes only, of course. Others might think this is scrap iron. So this wouldn't make a good wall hanger because it's three-dimensional, but it would look good in a showcase in my living room, wouldn't it? And one more look at the compass plane. And we have a work of art on this knob. Stanley Rule and Level Company. Now they would stamp it out of plastic. No, they wouldn't even make it. These are all obsolete. I know, another one of my incredibly marathon length videos on a subject that few people care about, but I think there might be a few people out there that appreciate these old planes and enjoy a video like this. If you do, tell your woodworking friends, because not too many woodworkers, I believe, watch my channel, but they might find this of interest as well. So I'm always on the outlook for neat old tools, whether they be woodworking or metalworking. Now, I've been attending a lot of auctions, and I am going over to Lost Creek Machinery several times because he just bought a huge amount of tools. So watch for those videos if you like to look through plunder and dig through drawers as much as I do. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now and happy Thanksgiving, or Merry Christmas, or both. See you next time.